Okay, so we're about to enter a new year of trading. A lot of you guys are going to be getting excited saying that this year is finally going to be a breakout year. You're going to make some crazy progress in your trading. But unfortunately, for most of you guys, the reality is you probably won't. And that's because you aren't taking the right steps to actually achieve that result. So in this video, I want to break down very clear, non-negotiable steps to actually see serious growth in your trading in 2026. No motivation, no bullshit fluff. This is going to be very clear advice talking about structure, data, and how to actually treat your trading like a legitimate business. So section 1, you want to focus on one clear, well-defined system. Now, there's no money in the market for average traders. So instead of being average at a handful of different systems, find one system and go all in on mastering that. And you're going to see this constantly amongst all of these successful traders that we see online these days, is they all have one approach that they have dove all into, committed 100%, and they can do that better than anyone else, and that's why they are so successful. So once you have your strategy, what you want to do is sit down and write out all of your rules, make them very clear and well-defined so you have no reason to hesitate when the trade actually presents itself. So included in these trade rules, what you want to have is your way of finding a high time frame direction, your entry criteria, your stop loss logic, your take profit rules, risk per trade, and your trade management. All of these sort of factors have absolute clarity on exactly how you're going to approach every single one. And something you want to think about is if you can't simply list out your trading rules, then how do you expect to trade it moving forward, let alone do it accurately? Section 2, set realistic expectations. So the truth is, a lot of you guys are going to be stuck in the cycle of strategy hopping, which is completely fine. We've all been there, we've all done it. But at some point you have to break the cycle, otherwise you're going to be stuck there for years. And if I was to take a guess, you're probably on the hunt for some golden strategy that's going to have an extremely high win rate that is massively profitable, which is, for one, completely unrealistic, and two, it is just completely unnecessary. If we look at the top 7-figure traders, for example, let's look at 3. We have Umar Ashraf, Carmine Rosado, and Jade Cap or Kyle. If you do some research on these traders, you'll see that they all trade very different approaches, but they all have very similar statistics. So generally, they're sitting around that 40 to 50% win rate, even slightly lower in some cases, and they have an average risk to reward of around that 2 to 3R mark, which is all you need to be successful, so stop burning time looking for something that is better. Section 3, 10 plus years of backtested data is a non-negotiable. Now, I'll tell you right now, backtested data is not an option, it is 100% necessary. Every decision you make in trading is going to come from your data. This is how you're going to build your edge and even build the confidence in order to trade that edge. So if the guy's saying that backtesting is a waste of time or not necessary, don't listen to them, they are full of shit. So the data is going to tell you everything. It's going to help you understand your drawdowns, you're going to know your true win rate, define your performance expectations, so what you can actually expect your strategy to return you every single year. You're going to remove fear during your live trading. You're going to see if it survives different market conditions, which is a massive factor in terms of longevity. You're going to see how long your losing streaks generally last, or whether your edge is real or imagined. So on top of all that, in the process of completing 10 plus years of backtesting, you are going to gain a ton of experience, which obviously isn't as good as trading the system in real time, but it is going to be a huge advantage regardless. And as I mentioned earlier in this video, in terms of mastering one approach, this is exactly how you're going to do it. So I also want to mention emotional mistakes or trading psychology. So I have a very different take on this compared to most other traders. I believe that all of your emotional mistakes are going to come from just lack of clarity or lack of confidence in your system because you just don't trust it. Once you go through and collect 10 plus years of backtested data on your system, I guarantee that your emotional mistakes will either completely disappear or at least massively improve because the confidence and trust is going to be there. Now jumping into section 4, so process over profits. Now this is a really interesting one because at some point in your trading journey, you're going to need to learn to forget about the money and put all of your focus on the process, especially when you scale to larger capital. It's like when I review my trades, I have zero consideration about how much money I made because it is completely irrelevant. All I want to know is how I performed in executing my strategy because the money will just be a byproduct of doing that successfully. So just for example, when I'm talking about process, I'm saying planning your trades before the session. So having a well thought out plan before you enter your trading session so you're not making random decisions on the spot. And then obviously following your rules flawlessly and reviewing your trades with intent. So not just brushing over your trade reviews, actually sitting there and going in depth on what happened. Now, if you can take anything away from this point, the one thing I want to say is all that matters is a flawless execution on your strategy, obviously provided that the strategy is tested and actually profitable. Okay, so we've got 2 more points I want to cover. We have section 5, and this is going to be trade journaling. This is a very obvious one. Everyone talks about it, so I'm going to keep it very short and sweet and to the point. Now, at the end of the day, you're never going to be able to improve unless you understand where you are failing. And this is the primary reason as to why we do trade reviews. So essentially what you want to do with these is you want to allocate 30 to 60 minutes to sit down and actually go in depth on that trade review. And I'm highlighting in depth because, like I say, if you brush over these, it's going to be bloody pointless. You need to actually commit a bit of time to go in depth on what happened. And you want to ask yourself, how did you perform? Was there missed opportunity? How was your trade sizing? Was there any news on the day? All those sort of things are going to be key factors that you want to take note of. So a big tip for this one, just find a way to make it easy and enjoyable. There's two ways that I do this. I like getting out of the house and go to a cafe, just change up that environment a little bit. And I also use a journaling software called TradeZella, which is just really aesthetic, clean and organized. Plus it uploads all of my trades automatically, which saves me a ton of time. So section 6, scaling with prop firms. Now, obviously, this is what everyone wants to hear because this is the fun part where we start talking about money. But unless you have done all the steps that we've spoken about in this video, you have no business entering prop firms because there's no money in prop firms unless you are actually a consistent trader. So obviously with these prop firms, there's a lot of benefits. You're going to be able to trade much larger capital. It's going to force you to be more disciplined in your own trading because of their rules and limitations. And it's going to push you a bit more to treat your trading like a business because you're going to be dealing with larger amounts of capital. So the whole goal with these prop firms is to replicate the exact same system and the exact same process, just at a larger scale. So jumping back, previously in this video, I mentioned process over profits. This is exactly what I'm talking about, because if your strategy works at a $1 risk, it's going to work the exact same way at a $1,000 risk because the process does not change. So one final point I want to make is what most of you traders are actually going to ignore. So the fact is, most of you guys are going to watch this video and probably agree with most of the things that I'm saying, but you're going to walk away and not do any of it. You're not going to backtest properly, you're not going to journal your trades, and you're not going to stick to one system. And that's going to be why you're still struggling as a trader. And I think it's safe to say if you have reached this point in the video, it's most likely you've been struggling for quite some time. And you need to ask yourself what you're doing wrong. Because if you started 2025 and finished 2025 in the exact same position, something needs to change because it obviously is not working. So if you're serious about growing in 2026 and getting better in your trading, focus on developing a well-defined system, back it with market data, execute on it flawlessly, and scale through prop firms. No shortcuts, no hype, just straight process. So if you're keen to see more trading related content, be sure to subscribe to this channel and let me know what you're struggling the most with in your trading at the moment. I'll see you on the next one.